Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results.
Or just audio?
We are recording. It is live. We are live. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. I might or might not edit that out, Gene. I don't know yet.
Okay.
This is audio and video, and it is my absolute pleasure. First of all, welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and second of all, welcome to a man who knows Melbourne very, very well. He's been here a number of times in his career. We were talking about specific locations in Melbourne. And he now lives in LA, and he's a very successful consultant, president of Growth Smart Consulting, I should say. Mr. Gene McNaughton, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Darren. And in our pre-call, our pre-meeting, what a pleasure, man. And you live in my favorite city in the world, Melbourne, home of AC/DC for all you old timers out there. For those that were born to rock, we salute you. Yes. I'm here.
Absolutely. And I was just also saying I think they played 2 gigs at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, which it didn't set the record that Taylor Swift set about a year and a half earlier, but over 100,000 people. And you could almost I live about 50 kilometers north of Melbourne, and you could almost hear the ground shaking far away because it was so loud. But that's what happens.
They're touring the United States, and I took my entire family, including my kids, to see them in Las Vegas because those kids have grown up with me listening to AC/DC somewhere, playing in the car, in the backyard. And I'm like, we got to go see them. And, I'm at this stage in my life, I'm into creating magic moments and lifetime memories. It's kind of my transition into my 50s. Like, I don't want to be this road warrior. I don't want to miss the ball game. I don't want to miss the dance recitals. But I also want them to experience things that I think they can love. And Melbourne's AC/DC, man, that rings in my heart like no other band in the world.
Now, I was going to ask you, and you might have a number of favorite songs, but when you watch AC/DC live, is there a specific song on their set list that is just the best live, as distinct from just listening to them on a stream?
Easy. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah, okay.
Their first big hit. But if you listen to the words of that song, it's about gutting it out. It's about, getting had, getting took. I'll tell you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way. So that's my pump up song. That's what I listen to if I want to just get into a state of, I'm going to go kick ass and I'm going to grind until it happens. And that's what that song reminds me of. Yeah. I just had a big speaking event in Nashville, and I decided to come out to TNT. Remember in the beginning, it's like, oi, oi, oi. And I had about 500 people on their feet going, oi, oi. I'll send you the video because I love it. I love AC/DC. It's universal.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, they were touring when you and I were in grade school.
Man, and a lot of them are in their 70s now.
Mm-hmm.
And still going.
Still going.
It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Hey, we could probably talk about Melbourne and AC/DC for the entire time, but we're actually here to talk about sales and sales leadership. So, can you give us, just for that, because there's a number of things we want to talk about today in terms of how to help some struggling organizations maybe start off 2026 with a better platform to improve, but also a little bit about your story as well. Can you just give us a bit of a Reader's Digest background of who Gene is, what you've done, what you've achieved in terms of leading to what you do today, specifically in working with organizations?
Yeah, Reader's Digest version. Darren, do you remember a computer company called Gateway Computers?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so in the 90s, I went to work there out of college. I It's from a small town that I'm from called Sioux City, Iowa. I'm sure none of your listeners have ever heard of that city. If you have, send me a shout out. That's where the company started. And it was right place, right time because the computer revolution really took off in the 90s. I started selling computers on a headset and we grew super fast. I got pretty good at selling over the phone. They said, we want you to manage people. And while I was on the phone, one thing I did, because we were in a giant call center, so there's
Mm.
hundreds of sellers around me, but I could hear good things from this person and observe good things from that person. And I began to just model and just take their little pieces and I'd put them on sticky notes. I had sticky notes all over
Yep.
my little cubicle. And basically what I was doing, I didn't know I was doing it, but I built myself my own sales training. So I could look at it and remind me to say this when somebody said that. Remind me
Hmm.
to ask for referrals after every sale. Reminded me to build rapport and ask questions rather than just trying to take an order. Somebody saw that and said, we want you to manage people. So I started managing people and I teach them what I did. And guess what? A well-trained seller will outperform an untrained seller all day, every day.
Totally.
Then it gave me an opportunity to become a sales trainer. They said, we want you to go train everybody. I'm like, great, let's do it. And so I spent 3 years and all I did was speak and teach, speak and teach, speak and teach. I had the chance to go to meet a guy named Zig Ziglar. Does that name ring a bell for you?
Man, I often use and refer to the great man in what I do in terms of whether it be keynotes or in my training as well. Absolutely. Love him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great sayings, but if you can have everything you want if you help enough other people get what they want, right? But I went to Zig Ziglar's private public speaking course where he taught speakers how to speak.
Mm.
And it cost in those days $500, which would be today like spending 3,000 to go to an event.
Yeah.
And that's where I just sometimes, for everybody listening, if you can go to an event with other like-minded people, spend 2 or 3 days immersed in a skill set, that is where the biggest breakthroughs come through.
Mm.
I learned how Zig speaks on stage, his body language, his facial expressions, his pauses, when to speed up and when to slow down.
Yeah.
The beauty of that was once I learned it from Zig, I was the sales trainer at Gateway, and I was speaking sometimes two, three, four times a day in front of 12 people. And because I had learned from Zig, I would put a camera on. I knew what good looked like, and I got really good at public speaking.
Mm.
Kind of by accident, but I took the course, I put it into action, repetition, repetition, repetition. Then after that ran its course, they asked me to run a division. There were 9 divisions at Gateway. Some sold to the consumer, some sold peripherals to the consumer, some sold to small business, government, education, right? So there are many different divisions, but they put me in a division that was absolutely last place, the lowest performer. And I went in like, what am I doing? So I had to figure out how can I get not just the organization turned around, but the
Mm.
people turned around, the managers turned around, how they tracked and measured, how they sales trained. And it took me about 2 years, but we took that division from number 9 to number 1 in terms of their performance to the number.
Nice.
Now we're in the billions of dollars here and we're publicly traded. So every dollar mattered to the public. I get that division turned around and then I get a call and they say, hey, we need you to move to Kansas City. I want you to take over this division. They're sucking. And I'm like, not again, not again. But I took it on because you get a promotion, you make more money, you never lose money when you sell
Yep.
your house and get to a new house. There's all these financial incentives to do it. And I go to this division, and guess what? I saw the same thing. I saw a sales force that felt beat up. I saw a leader that wasn't measuring things. I saw managers that weren't inspiring, motivating, and coaching. I
Mm.
saw a leader that wasn't laying out the vision, holding people accountable, recognizing and rewarding them for positive things. And I quickly knew, okay, I've seen this movie before. I'm going to do these things. That lasted about 18 months. Everything's settled. We're on good street. That group moves up to being a top performer group in the 9 different divisions, sales
Yep.
divisions. and they said, "Hey, Gene, we need you to move back to Sioux City because the education division is sucking." And I'm like, "Okay." And I did that 4 times. And by the fourth one, I almost knew what was screwed up.
Yeah.
So I'd talk to the people, I'd talk to the managers, I'd observe what they did, and it was always the same thing: lack of inspiration, lack of managers holding people accountable, a
Yeah.
leader not laying out the ground rules and the KPIs, the revenue targets. I saw a sales division that wasn't getting coached, they weren't getting trained, they weren't being held accountable. I saw that they had really terrible hiring practices. That pulse beat. Hey, can you speak English? Yes. You got a job, right? So you can't run a company by not having good hiring practices.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So that's what I didn't know, is that was really training me to do what I do today.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, I decided to leave Gateway. There was, after 12 years, I got recruited to a startup that seemed very lucrative. It wasn't. And right in that transition, I got a call out of the blue from a recruiter who said, "How'd you like to move to California?" And I'm like, "No, California, that's the land of fruits and nuts. That's what we that's what we thought about California." And then she said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but are you familiar with Tony Robbins?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've got everything he's ever done, every tape, every CD, every book." And frankly, that's what I learned from, Jim Rohn says this: work as hard on yourself as you do on your job,
Yeah.
which is personal development, self-investment. Well, I had eaten up everything that Tony Robbins did. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think this is destiny. I am going to be this guy. So Tony hires me. I moved to California. He has 11 sales divisions around the country. And these are salespeople that were not short on motivation, but they were
Mm.
short on structure. They were short on cadence. They were short on metrics and management. And in all of those 11 teams, while the company was doing fine, they weren't doing great because Tony's on
Mm.
the road doing seminars. We were, within 2 years, we were able to break every single, it's a 29-year-old company, every single sales record in all 11 divisions at least twice.
Wow.
And it becomes a, how did you do that? Well, you do the same thing over and over again. You start to see the patterns of, usually when sales organizations are struggling, it's about 5 to 7 key things that you got to dive into.
Yeah.
I helped Tony after 4 years of traveling the world. That includes, we did events in Sydney, Gold Coast, Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast, and what's the other big city?
Brisbane, Adelaide,
Brisbane,
Brisbane.
Brisbane, yeah, Brisbane. Melbourne was my favorite out there. There's not, I did love the Sydney Harbor. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to jog on that and eat a nice steak there in the harbor. Ooh, was it
Yeah.
Princess Harbor?
Don't know.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
showing my Sydney ignorance here.
Where,
Apologies to
wherever
Sydney people listening to this.
wherever the big arenas were, wherever the big arenas were. And then I became once we built this program called Business Mastery, I was one of the keynotes. I would give a keynote on a case study of a company we helped grow from 900 million to 1.7 billion in 12 months. And then clients started hiring me to come in and I'll tell you this, Darren, companies that are kicking ass and breaking records, they don't usually call guys like me. I
Mm.
get called in when the company is struggling,
Yeah.
when the company has had a flat year, they've gone backwards, they have competitors that are taking their business. The leader of that division, it could be the CEO who's under pressure from the board. It could be the president of the division that's under massive, massive, massive pressure to get that sales organization turned around. They've tried everything it is they know, and they're getting beat by their competitors. They're getting their margins compressed. And my job is to come in and assess what's going on, figure out their bottlenecks, and fix them.
Mm.
And after doing that under Tony's umbrella, because he provided the people, I'd get on the stage. And, frankly, when you get on somebody else's stage and you sell a $250,000 deal, they keep half that money, right? So it made money for him, helped him maximize the value out of his audience. And in 2015, I said, okay, you know what? I'm good enough now. I've got enough connections. I got enough people calling me directly. And I exited being on that stage, which I love being on the stage. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I realized I could attract and win my own business and not have to give half of it away.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
allowed me to build a business growth consulting firm called Growth Smart, growthsmart.com.
Nice.
Shameless plug.
Don't worry. We'll make sure that all this is in the show notes. That's all good.
No,
Yeah.
I'm here to serve. I am here to serve and share, things I've learned because it hasn't been a straight line path. It hasn't been easy. There's been moments of, oh my God, what am I going to do? For those of you that have started a company from scratch like me, and there's been moments of, oh, we had 5 deals that we were in the middle of. We're hoping to win one or two of them, and we won all 5. And now we have a quality problem, but there's only so many hours in a day. And
Absolutely.
especially because I have clients in your country, I have clients in Europe, have clients in New Zealand, had clients in New Zealand, and then all over the United States.
Mm.
And I have 7 kids and a wife that I love very much. So at this stage in life, I'm running things a little bit different because while yes, I love to serve people, I love to turn things around, and I love making money, as all of you should, but I love my family more and I
Mm.
love my health more. So I've made some adjustments so that I can have a balance of I can have my cake and I can eat it too,
Yeah.
where I'm not missing ball games, I'm not missing dance recitals, I'm not missing little concerts that my 23-year-old daughter puts on. And because Darren, you and I were talking, we're in our 50s, and at this
Yeah.
stage, the number one priority, happiness.
Mm.
So those of you out there that are grinding away, remember, we're all doing this stuff to have a happy life. And
That's
I
it.
wish that for everybody, but happiness is like anything else. You got to study it,
It
and
is.
you got to apply what you learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fully agree. There's lots in that. The other thing I wanted to delve into as well is you started a company called GeoBear,
Yeah.
and you mentioned that it's probably an area that you'd not been in before, that you exited 12 months ago.
Mhm.
Because I think there's parallels to that with people having to go through different stages of life, different stages of their development in terms of a company and some of the challenges that you face with that. I'd like to draw some of the, I guess, key principles out of helping struggling sales organizations what they can do. But before we do that, can you reflect on where you were January 2025 in terms of walking away? Because you're talking now about creating experiences. You went from having making good money at Geo Bear, having stock options, and said, you know what, this is not me. Um, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but maybe life is more important than what I'm doing now because I'm not necessarily working my passion. And then what happened? January 2025, and talk about the year of 2025.
I will. I'll talk about that in detail. In my consulting practice, as I mentioned, I have clients all over the world. I did a keynote here in LA, about 110 owners, CEOs, presidents, high level folks. And I had a gentleman approach me and he said, I have an engineering firm. We're out of Finland. We have offices all over the United Kingdom, all over Europe. And you think you can help us? And I said, well, do you have low price competitors stealing your business? Yes. Do you have a rock solid, well built out, regimented, best practice sales process? No. Do you have a CRM? Yes. What do you have? Salesforce.com? Great. If I looked at your Salesforce right now, would I see dashboards? Would I see accuracy? Would I see deal velocity? He's like, no, we were having a hard time getting our people to use it. I
Mm,
said, great. And then I asked the most important question that if you're in this business or if you're a company owner, I'm asking you this question directly. If I put 5 of your salespeople in 5 different rooms and I walked in and I said, I am an ideal buyer of yours, I'm a decision maker, you've gotten the first meeting with me, what do you say? My question to you is if I had 5 of your reps and I did that with them, would they all be consistent?
mm,
Would they all be question based? Would they be razor sharp, highly persuasive, highly influential? Would they move me to the next step of whatever your sales process is?
yeah.
Only you can answer that directly, but I've yet to meet with anybody that said, "Oh yeah, we're a level 10 there." Most people say, if I say on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Most people say 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah.
And I don't jump in and say, oh, I can help you fix that. I just say a simple question. What's that
Mm,
costing you?
mm.
What does it cost you to have sellers out in the field doing whatever they want? What's it costing you not to have a razor sharp, highly persuasive, well laid out sales process that's followed by everybody? What's it costing you not to have a CRM like Salesforce in place so you can track, measure, and monitor everything? And when you start putting dollars to the cost of lost opportunity, things start to change real quick. So that's what I got really good at. And I went to work for this company as a consultant, this company called GeoBear. I'll tell you that when I went there, they were breaking even. They were running
Yeah,
at about, let's just say, I don't want to say the numbers, but let's just say less than 10 million. I'll make these numbers up.
yeah.
And going through the same process, the company turnaround process. And I'm not talking about operations. I'm not talking about finance. I'm not talking about HR policy and procedure. My expertise is in revenue generation, which requires marketing, it requires sellers, it requires a CRM to measure and monitor. Within 3 years, we had well over tripled their sales. They were now very profitable. And usually as a consultant, we start with a 6 month agreement. And if you're really clearly driving profitability to the bottom line, they tend to keep you around a little bit. So I became passionate about this business, even though I didn't know anything about engineering. I didn't know anything about soil and soil excavation and damaged soil versus good soil. I didn't know that. I probably know as much as you, Darren. How much do you know about soil and dirt integrity?
Well, not much other than I did a engineering degree last century, which did have some geotechnical in it, but I
Okay, so
can't
you're
remember
farther
out of
along than I was. But I didn't have to worry about that. I'm orchestrating the sellers, I'm orchestrating the marketers, I'm holding them accountable, I'm teaching them, I'm coaching them, I'm training them. They had about 45 sellers out in the field.
it. Mm,
Well, 2020 hits, and it hit us just like it hit you. I had wrapped up my relationship with them in January because I got to a point where I'm like, I appreciate you paying me, but I have taught you everything. I would do training, I would record the training so that when they'd have a new hire, they'd go through all my recordings. I built a
yeah.
test so that every new hire went through the exact same training when they started with this company because
Mm,
you have turnover or you have growth. You're always hiring
yeah,
new people.
absolutely.
And their numbers continue to skyrocket. COVID hits and it puts a halt to many bits. Certainly the seminar business was done. You couldn't even go to a movie theater. You couldn't even
Yeah.
go to a restaurant here in California. And, after I sat around for about 90 days by the pool and ate and got really fat, uh, now come on, I'm not the only one that did that. When you're sitting around and you're all you're wearing is shorts and sweatpants, you don't know if those jeans are going to fit anymore. Well,
That's right.
mine didn't. I violated every health, sugar, like we did it all. I had three girls in the house that love to cook. So do the math. They love to
Yeah.
bake. And I started thinking like, okay, we're 90 days in, a lot of uncertainty, if you remember, just what was going to happen. And I started to realize that we had to learn to sell differently because most sellers around the world, certainly ones that worked in the field, you couldn't even go into in the field, you're walking into a company, you're asking to meet with somebody,
Mm,
or you're calling them to schedule a meeting so you can talk about products and services. Well, that was done. What I had noticed, I've been on a lot of Zoom meetings as Zoom started taking off, and I noticed that many people didn't really have etiquette on how to run a sales meeting virtually like we're doing right now. Like you'd be
yeah.
on it and their camera's over here, but the monitors and they're talking to you like they're talking to your face, like I'm doing right now. And I'm like, so I put together a very simple training program, how to become a virtual seller
Okay.
and not hype stuff, but like, look, if you're going to run a Zoom meeting, get all the crap cleaned off the back of don't go to it with a t-shirt and your hat on backwards and you're trying to sell a $200,000 solution. You got to dress the part. You got to have a good background. You got to learn how to build good PowerPoint slides so you have visuals. You got to be able to look directly into the camera
Mm.
because as I look into my camera right now, it appears that I'm looking you right in the eyes. There we go. Now I'm looking you in the eyes.
That's it.
But I'd be on these meetings and no kidding, they're hat on backwards. There's a cat walking by somebody's thing. There's scattered papers all over, and they're talking to somebody like this because that's where their camera is when the screen's over here. So, well, today it's just this is normal, but
It
go
is.
back 5 years ago.
Yeah, true.
These people made their living being out in the field and being with customers, business to business.
Mm.
And like any comedian, when you have new material, you got to go practice that material on a live audience. So I thought I'm going to call GeoBear. I'll call the CEO because they were a what do you call it? A necessary service, so that their
Yeah.
business didn't stop because they were working on highways and roadways and foundations of buildings and homes.
Mm.
And I did this training. I said no charge. All I ask is I'll send out a little feedback form. Everybody already knows me. They can be honest. I like this. I didn't like this because I thought
Yeah.
this is going to be good content to teach people. And I'll remind everybody. We go back to Zig Ziglar. Service to many is what leads to greatness. And oftentimes, the best way to start is by doing something of value to them for free.
Mm.
I didn't ask for any money. I just wanted a live audience. About 2 weeks later goes and he calls me and he says, that training was great, certainly helped us. He said, I also wanted to let you know we're ready to expand into America. And I said, okay, great. Can I help you? And he goes, I want you to run it. I want you to build it. And I said, his name was Otto. I said, Otto, I don't know anything about your products. I've never even seen it. I've never, everything I
Mm.
did was virtual from my office in California, all over Europe and China. I'm like, I don't know how this works. He goes, you'll hire people for that. He goes, I need somebody that knows how to build a business.
Mm.
I need somebody that has connections, that can find the right law firm, can find the right workers, that can recruit and train, hire and train people. I need somebody that can orchestrate the website, the marketing collateral, and the sales process. And he asked me, I said, well, that sounds interesting, but I don't think you can afford me. Always the best way to start a negotiation, my friends. And he said, try me. I put together a big number. So there you go. I take this over. And now I'm going to start a business in a field I know absolutely nothing about. We had some startup capital, but other than that, I had to find a building, I had to find a warehouse, I had to start recruiting, I had to build a website because, a website from Australia or a website from Europe, 70% of it can work in the States, but you got to remember the United States, we're still on imperial. We don't do metric.
Yeah.
The houses in Europe and the cars in Europe look different than the cars here. I couldn't just glom onto their website. So for the next 4 years, I built this company from scratch. And I'll just tell you now, it was the hardest thing I ever did. I came in, was making, really good money, and I had a piece of the company. So I thought, okay, I'm going to build this thing over the next 10 years. We'll have a nice exit, have enough money. I can retire. I don't think I'll ever retire, to be honest with you.
Mm.
But, when there's no financial pressure, then you do what you want when you want. That's
Yeah.
that's not a bad goal.
Yeah.
And but I got into it, and you know what happened over the course of time, I was spending only 20 or 30% of my time doing what I'm good at and doing what I love, which for me is sales and marketing, strategy, tactical execution,
Mm.
hiring great people, training them, teaching them how to close deals. I was in a very, very, very competitive business, but a very litigious, meaning you don't
Lots
do
of legal
something
stuff.
like if you're fixing somebody's foundation and it doesn't get done right, you're
Yeah.
getting sued. So a lot of that. And over the course of the next 3 years, my hair's, I got a little bit of gray in my hair, Darren. We're about the same age. But if you would have saw me 18 months ago, I was turning gray. I was losing hair. I had lines all over my face because it was taxing.
Mm.
And you combine, a 60-hour work week with, we'd have executive leadership team meetings. They're in Finland, which I think is about 11 hours ahead of my time zone.
Yeah.
So I might be on a meeting at 11 p.m. or I might be on a meeting at 4 a.m. So you do those meetings because you got to, you're part of a global leadership team,
Yeah.
and then you start your day, then you package in 7 kids, And I was at my wit's end, and I had this realization. I was telling you this, like, this is not working for me.
Mm,
The money was great, but when your health starts to suffer, when your relationships start to suffer, you're missing things. Like I'd literally get done, I'd get have dinner with my family, have a little, maybe a little time with them, put the kids to bed. And as soon as my wife shut her eyes, I had to go back down to my office and do emails or do
mm,
reports or do roll-ups or apply for the new license, or it just got to a point, and then it started bleeding into Saturday. Then it started bleeding into Sunday. And I'm like, this is not, I love the money, but I love my family and I love my life better. I love
mm.
my health better than money.
Yeah.
I had to make the decision. I had signed a 4-year deal. And in May of 2024, I said, I'm not renewing. And that was a little bit of a devastating blow, but I said I'll recruit and find my replacements. The business, I got everything documented in this business. We had
Yeah.
expanded from one office to 3 offices. That's its own challenge. But now that I've got every system, every tool, every program we were using, everything is dialed up and documented. You can hand it off to somebody that can just follow the
Mm,
paint by numbers approach I built for them.
yeah.
So I exited. And that was both exhilarating and scary because I didn't in January last year, I didn't just change my LinkedIn profile and suddenly my phone started ringing. Hey, I'm so happy about this. Come in and help us. I
You're
started,
back.
yeah, you're back. We've been sitting here waiting for you, Gene. Didn't work that way. So I had to restart again from scratch, from nothing. And now I'd made some money in the exit. We traveled a little bit. We went to our hometowns. We took when you're taking a pack of 4 to 7 kids,
Yeah.
on flights, hotel,
Hands
food,
up.
you're burning through money, in a healthy way, at a healthy
Mm,
pace. And then I got serious and said, okay, let's go. So I started doing what I would teach anybody to do. Start with your network. Double down on LinkedIn. That's how we met, Darren.
mm.
I might have commented on yours, you commented on mine, little relationship starts, DM happens, and
Yeah.
boom, here we are right now in this very moment on
Yeah.
what is it, January 15th. And then got a little deal, got a little deal, got a little deal. And the reality is the best clients for me are the bigger companies.
Mm.
The bigger companies can write bigger checks. And the bigger companies have bigger problems. When they miss a number, the fit hits the shan, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah. But dealing with the uncertainty, dealing with you know, is it going to happen? Like I can't deny, as confident as I am in what I do and the ability to turn companies or struggling companies into profitable companies,
Mm.
you still got to hunt them. You still got to get the attention of decision makers. You still got to run great meetings. You still have to have great social proof of all of the other examples and case studies.
Yeah.
I had to go eat my own cooking and do what I teach people to do.
Mm.
And that was both scary, that was both difficult, but now that I'm on the other side of it, absolutely worth it, absolutely rewarding. Now I've got a robust client list of companies that I'm making significant impacts on that all came to me with the same problem. We're
Mm.
stuck.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the guy. Let's see what you got.
I love a challenge. I love a challenge. So
Sure.
I love that. I love that. I love that story. And thank you so much for sharing that, Gene. For people listening to this, I want to talk some practicalities and not giving away numbers and stuff like that. But you said you doubled down on LinkedIn. So when you talk about organizations that are struggling and perhaps they don't have a robust sales process, they don't have consistency in terms of their messaging, their CRM and the application or the willingness to apply to CRM and the cadence they have around that may have some challenges. If people are listening to this that in 2026, January 2026, they're struggling, they haven't got the results they wanted, they're behind the eight ball. Are there some key metrics that you start with? Are there some key things that you begin with to say, hey, if you do the vital few or the top five, you do these things religiously over, say, the next 3 months, and you double down on these three things, you can start to build some momentum. Are there specific things that you've seen a pattern develop in the organizations you've worked with, but also what you did 12 months ago in order to start to build that momentum?
I'll start with what came to my mind first. It's without question, anybody listening to this would agree with me if I said a well-trained sales force will outperform a non-trained sales force
Yeah.
over the course of time. And what that means is, do you have a regimented and documented sales process? And do you train it with rigor? What I mean by, are you running great meetings where you're having your normal sales meeting, but 15 or 20 minutes of that is carved out? Maybe somebody on your team won a big deal. Ask them how they did it. Maybe you have certain pieces of your sales process that you want to review and say to the team, is this the best way we can do it? Is there a better way of which to do it? Many of the best techniques are already happening under your nose by your current sellers. But here's the problem I see. I have interviewed and worked with tens of thousands of sellers now since I'm 22 years old. At Gateway, there were
Mhm.
several thousand. And most sellers, even today, are using skills they've just picked up along the way. When I talked about if I put five of your reps in five different
Yeah.
rooms and ask them the questions, I do that in real life with my new clients. I said, give me 5 to 10 of your reps. I'm going to get on a Zoom. I give them confidentiality so they're not stressed out about it. And I'm going to say, walk me through the sales process. And then I say,
Hmm.
who's your ideal buyer? And let's just say, for example, we're going after facilities engineers in the pharmaceutical space. I'm totally making this up. Okay, good. I got that. Let's just say you've gotten a meeting with me. I'm a facilities engineer. I've given you 30 minutes. How are you going to run that initial meeting?
Yeah.
Because you know what you see, Darren, online is like you see all these services. We can get an appointment. We can line you up with this, that, and the other. Well, great. Getting the appointment is only one phase. If you don't know how to run a first meeting
Mm.
that is compelling, persuasive, that's consultative, meaning you're running it by asking intelligent questions,
Yeah.
it's unlikely you're going to move that to the next step unless you're a low price competitor. Who wants to be
Mm.
that? That's for losers.
That's it.
Yeah. So I can get that understanding, but what are some things they can do right now? Well, number one is, are you measuring and tracking performance on a daily basis? Here's a little secret I put in place. Every single company, I put in something called the tracker, which says if you think about the 3 to 5 core KPIs, key performance indicators, one of them is always revenue, another one could be margin, another one
Mm.
could be number of meetings, number of presentations. But you put in 3 to 4 core KPIs, you give each person a goal, and if you begin to track that on a daily basis, and it's on a spreadsheet, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I just
Yeah.
call it tracker. I started doing this at Gateway in my early days because here's something to get for you leaders out there. If you're not measuring performance on a day, let's just say you measure performance once a month. Well, you can go a whole month and have a bad month and not even know it.
That's it.
Some companies measure, they just look at the end of the year. Well, you can have bad quarters and not even know it.
Mm.
But you can go from measuring once a month to once a week. But if you can have the discipline to measure it every single day, there's somebody on your team that can pull the data out of the system and say, this is how much we sold, and this is how much seller one, two, three, and four sold. And their numbers get produced to the entire company. I mean,
Mm.
why play a game if there's no scoreboard? You know what I mean?
True.
And you put that out to the public within your company to say, here's the sales scoreboard, and here's Bob and Thomas and Sarah and Suzanne and Frank and Joe, however big your force is.
Mm.
That alone will improve performance.
Mm.
You're just putting the numbers out there. And you can rank people by performance. You can do it based on total numbers. You can do it based on attainment of a predetermined goal. But you put a stack ranking out there. That alone motivates people because you're always going
Mm.
to have somebody that's number one You're always going to have somebody that's last place.
That's it.
Any seller, anybody that has a competitive breath in their body, they don't want to be on the bottom when the numbers are going out. And so that's low hanging fruit. Track the performance, make it visible to the entire sales force, and if you want, the entire company. At
Mm.
Gateway, I would send an email out to everybody in the division. Sales stats. Please, if you see, Fred in the hallway, give him a high five. Fred's number one. But
Right.
also, the last place person was on the same sheet. Nobody wants to see their number on the bottom. That alone is as simple as it is, it's absolutely profound. Another thing is,
If you see Tom walking through the corridor and he's down the bottom, give him a kick up the bum and say, "Hey, lift your
yep,
game, mate."
yep, yep, give Tom a kick in the butt because he deserves it. But that alone improves performance. You would not believe it because then suddenly now you put a spiff on, you put a contest on it. Top
Yeah.
performer for this quarter is going to get $1,000 bonus. Is going to get
Mm.
that trip to a nice hotel with his or her significant other and family. Now you
Yep.
put a little attention on it. Then you start putting these numbers out and you start to recognize and reward people. Congratulations to Darren. He won that big deal. If you see him, give him a high five. And now, so what happens is the more attention you give to something, the more you identify and communicate a behavior, the more that behavior will continue. This works with our kids too, by the way,
Oh, it does.
right? I,
Absolutely.
I go into a lot of sales forces and I'll interview sellers and they'll say the only time I get called is when something's not going good. Or they'll say, I'm doing all these good things, but this manager only finds the bad things. It's very demotivating. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying ignore things that aren't working, but a guy named Keith Cunningham, I don't know if you know who that is.
I
He's
haven't
a
heard of it, no.
he's a guy that's on the circuit with Tony Robbins, but he said something. He goes, reward the behaviors you want to see repeated.
Mm.
Double down on what's working. Double down on individual performers. You know that old saying, you should treat everybody the same. I don't do that. If you're hitting your number, you're kicking the ball out of the park or hitting the ball out of the park. I manage you different than somebody that's complaining, whining, not hitting their numbers,
That's
always
it.
has excuses. I manage that person radically different. It's not equal for everybody. I want to put my winners on a pedestal so that everybody is striving to get that recognition, to get easy things that don't cost anything. If they're
Yeah.
coming into an office, they get a front row parking spot for a month. What does that cost you? Nothing.
Nothing.
So you
Nothing.
you put orchestration around the behavior you want to see. You recognize it. You reward it. They get, so you measure, monitor, and track. You begin to overly recognize the behavior you want to see. Number three, if you've got those whiners, if you've got those complainers, if you've got those mavericks that are backstabbing other people, you got to have the courage to meet with them, give them an opportunity, let them know what you're observing, and help them understand the standards that it required. Tony Robbins says this. He says, he gets asked this question: what's the number one thing that causes somebody to improve their life? What's the number one thing that causes a business to accelerate? And the one thing he says, because Darren, you've been doing it's a lot of things that requires it, but
Yeah.
he says it's as simple as it sounds: raise your standards. Begin to decide what you tolerate versus what you don't tolerate. And once you raise that bar of what's acceptable on this team, would you allow Darren, somebody that's whining, complaining, pointing fingers, blaming other people, not showing up on time, would you allow them to be on any team that you're running?
No, no. But the interesting thing, Jen, is I've seen this a lot. Sometimes those same people are the ones that actually are getting good results. So the company looks at them as saying, "Oh, the numbers are great," but they don't necessarily look at the culture they're creating and the damage they're creating through that toxicity and the behavior they're demonstrating. So, I believe you've got to get rid of them or give them the opportunity to turn around.
That's the key. It goes in that order.
Hmm.
Clarification, direct observation in your one-on-one. If you see the behavior continue, you use I don't know what you call it in Australia, a performance improvement plan, a
Yeah.
PIP.
Yeah.
And they're saying, look, I'm killing the numbers. Who cares? Well, no, I'm telling you, now I've seen this happen and I've seen it, and I've consulted 164 companies. I've been around the block a few times
Yeah.
and this is Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, well, just all over the world are the clients I've had. And there have been times when the CEO or the leader had the courage to cut the high performer that was toxic to the rest of the group. And those people
Mm.
are out there and they were scared as all get out. But you know what happened? All the other performers, in all cases, all the other performers stepped up
There you
because
go.
they realized that leader was serious.
Yeah.
That if there were things that you just would not tolerate, and that person violated them, means they can't be on the team. Now
Yeah.
I'm raising and have raised some, but some are I got a 26-year-old down to 12. I got 7 kids. And I'm telling you, minimum standards and holding true to those, like in our house, you make your bed, you brush your
Mm.
teeth. And I'm not
Mm.
talking about changing the world. I'm talking about instilling baseline behaviors in our kids. Is it
Yeah.
easy? No, it's
No.
not.
No.
It's not. You got kids, you know the drill.
Yeah, absolutely.
This everybody's got a chore.
Hmm.
And what I'm trying to do is, and when they do these things, I'm like, good job, good
Mm.
job. But if they don't do it, I'm on it.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable here.
Absolutely. And that's the key thing. It's the raising of the standards to say this is who we are, this is what we want to aspire to, but you've got to be able to lift to that. And as a leader, you've got to be able to set that standard, but also demonstrate that standard and be uncompromising in the ruthlessness by which you maintain and set those standards.
Yeah.
And irrespective of where you're performing, that's the benchmark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
So turning around a company, get the numbers visible, recognize and reward the behavior you want to see. You'll begin to see it a lot more.
Mm.
Put in contests and spiffs for the people that win on a monthly or quarterly basis. Do not fail to recognize performers. Don't look at them and say, "Great job last month. You're at zero now. Get going." Because now it's second quarter. What have you done for me lately? And yes, to some extent that's true. To some extent that's true. But do not miss the opportunity to recognize, reward, and celebrate.
Yes.
Yeah. Third,
Totally.
raise your standards. Decide what will not be tolerated ever. Make it public, make it
Mm.
known, make it clearly communicated so there's no secrecy. And if somebody violates it, get on it. If they
Yeah.
keep violating it, they don't deserve to be on your team.
That's it.
Next, want one more?
Yeah, sure.
Double down on your investment in your people, tools, resources, coaching, sales process. If you need to bring in a third party to perform these things, great.
Mm.
When they see you investing in them and you see the accountability things in place, they're either going to step into it or they're going to step out.
Yeah.
What I find is almost all people step into it. I had such a great experience over 12 years with Gateway. Imagine being in a company that's truly a rocket ship. When I
Mm.
joined, they had done like $40 million in revenue in 1990. In 91, we did 250. In 92, we did $1 billion. I mean,
Wow.
can you imagine how much winning was going on?
No.
And it became, we were a bunch of poor farm kids. I'm not exaggerating. You look up Sioux City, Iowa. It's
Yeah.
farm town. And, kids that were hungry, athletes in school and all that stuff. There wasn't a lot of opportunity in my city, but this crazy little computers were new. They were novel. They were like, who wants a computer in their house? Who would ever want that? Like, geez. And we had a culture of winning every single year, and it was the most fun. Could not have been a better ride. And all us
Mm.
poor kids were now making real money and buying toys and jet skis and boats and trucks. And it just went like a bunch of idiots spending our money. but it was, but the company did that, doubled down on the win, doubled down on
Yeah.
recognition, doubled down on gifts and rewards for the performers, managing out people that didn't want to comply with minimum standards. That's
Mm.
what you got to do as a business leader. You want to turn
Yeah.
your company around, do that.
Love it. Love it. And everything you've spoken about today, and I want to, and I say this really respectfully, it's not rocket science, but it's interesting how a lot of organizations and a lot of leaders will overlook that because they're looking for something that's more complicated.
What did Steve Jobs said this?
Yeah.
Simplification is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Mark Twain wrote that. If I had more time, I would have wrote a shorter letter, right?
Phenomenal. Hey,
But I
Gene.
think what I think for if you're truly a business leader out there and your sales force is struggling, if you can just hop into those four things. The other thing I'd say is Darren and I met on LinkedIn, and he knows that I post 3 to 5 times every week, and I go through I got 24 journals. I've been journaling for the last 24 years. I start a journal at the beginning of every year,
Mm,
and if I hear something, if I might get something in church, I always have my journal with me because never let a good idea go without documenting it because it
yeah.
comes and goes in our brains. So I go through my old journals of when I was with Tony Robbins, when I was at Gateway, what were some of the things I learned? I'll write down lessons learned. Write down dumb things I did I thought would
Mm,
work that were in hindsight really dumb. But my LinkedIn posts are really, I pulled something out of a journal. It was a lesson I learned in a seminar. It's a lesson I learned from a sales trainer. It's a lesson a top performer at a company or a leader taught me.
mm,
And I go super heavy on LinkedIn. So at minimal, if I've appealed to you, just go join me on LinkedIn.
mm.
And as Darren will tell you, and Darren does the same thing, like we're putting we are the best. I put the best of everything. I'm not holding nothing back.
No, that's it.
That's a forum that doesn't cost you any money that you can really help people with. And the truth is, the more people you help, the more people that get involved, and opportunities show up out of that. Look at me. I'm on a podcast with a guy out of Melbourne, my favorite city in the world. Who would have thought that a little farm boy from Iowa is on with the famous Darren Mitchell? Like, come on. It's a dream come true.
There you go. There you go. And it's all consistency as well. Just keep stepping up to the plate. All the stuff we've spoken about today, use that, but be consistent. Consistency, as John Maxwell says, consistency compounds. Right?
Oh man, love John Maxwell.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
In
mate,
fact, I'll just add something.
sure.
One more thing. You don't have to have all the answers yourself, business
Mm,
leaders. You do need to get answers, but you don't have to have them. A guy named Ben Hardy wrote a beautiful book that came out 2 years ago called Who, Not How. And basically, the premise of the book is when you get determined that you're going to accomplish something, you're going to do something, maybe you're going to try to break a record, maybe you're going to go into a new marketplace, maybe you're bringing on a new product line, maybe you're
mm,
starting a new company. You said, before you think about how, think about the who that is an expert in that field that you can hire, you can read their book, you can go to their seminar. But if you really want results, go find that who, hire them
mm,
because they already know how.
mm.
And for all of you out there, you don't have to be the sales trainer. You don't have to sit down late at night so you can put together your PowerPoints and be able to deliver this amazing training, or you're a leader and you're a new leader.
Mm.
Well, just because you got the title leader doesn't mean you know how to lead an organization. And
100%.
if I were you, I'd call Darren. He's got a whole program. I'm not pitch plugging you, but I know about you.
Mm,
That's all he does is work with leaders, new leaders, to say, here are 8 key principles that he has spent 35 years learning. And I'm sure it wasn't all, sunshine and rainbows. I'm sure you had your
no,
moments, didn't you, Darren?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not, I wish it
And
was easier.
yeah, but if it was easier, you wouldn't be where you are.
Correct.
You wouldn't respect, you'd say, look, you built this program to help leaders not just be even better, but to help make sure they don't make the mistakes that you
Mm.
made.
That's it.
I teach, part of most of my teachings are, let me tell you how I did this wrong.
Mm.
And let me tell you what happened when I did it wrong. Because here's another lesson for you to write down. If you lose, don't lose the lesson. And if you don't lose the lesson, you never lose,
That's it. Love it.
right? Get the lesson, write it down, and say, okay, that was wrong. But it doesn't stop you from changing course and getting to the outcome,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But a guy like Darren has a program he's built. How long has Exceptional Leader been public?
Well, the podcast has been probably 6 years, nearly 6 years. And the company, I've been doing it since, well, full time since 2015, but 2011, pretty much.
Yeah, the guy knows a thing or two. Like, if you don't
Mm.
have any money, just go listen to every podcast he's done, pull out your journal, write down the stuff that works, and make those your organizing principles.
There you
My
go.
point is, you don't have to be and know everything. Your job is to
Mm.
be the orchestrator of the resources to get it done. If your
Yeah.
CRM is not working right and nobody's using it, and you got bad data and you don't have dashboards, find an expert that can come in and fix that. If your sales process is not up to speed or it doesn't exist, find an expert that can come in and build that and teach that and motivate people to use that. A well trained team outperforms a bad team. That is an
100%.
absolute positive fact.
It
If
is.
your marketing is not getting leads, if your marketing is not helping sellers open the door, find somebody who does that and
Mm.
hire them.
Mm. Love it. Love it. Again, gold, but all common sense principles, which is not
Well,
necessarily common practice.
that is right. Common sense sometimes is not so common. You would think,
True.
but I didn't know this stuff when I got hired. I got turned into being a quote unquote leader when I was 24.
Mm.
And all that meant is I went from a seller, I got a job, and now I'm supposed to just automatically transform into the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership and I know what I'm doing. No, not at all. I was just at a seminar and a gentleman who was a professional baseball player and got to the point where he wasn't, and they hired him to be for an organization director of baseball operations. And I said, how'd that go? And he said, terrible. He goes, I had just come off of being a baseball player, and now I've got this job where I've got employees. He goes, I've never managed a person. I've never laid out, yeah, I've never laid out a business plan. I've never put in management metrics. I've never had to let somebody go. I've never had to terminate anybody. But suddenly, because they got the title of
Mm.
manager, director, vice president, or leader, because the gods came down and said, I'm going to inject all this wisdom in your brain because you got a new title. Guess what?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work. No. And shame on the organization for doing that because they set him up to fail and probably didn't give him the support that he needed to make that transition.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
well,
completely
I'll
different
say
story.
this. He did a great talk on being thrust into a leader without knowing how to be a leader.
Yeah,
And the
nice.
reason you made me think of this because you brought up John Maxwell.
Yeah,
He went and studied John Maxwell. He went to John Maxwell's seminar. He had a picture of him and John Maxwell during his talk. He goes, I got his videos. He wrote something in the late 90s called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
yeah,
So Christianity, God, Jesus, leaders. He goes, I started there.
yeah,
And then he read a book called The E Myth, if you know what
yeah,
that one is. Then he did the same thing I'm recommending to you is you don't have to have all the answers. You know where you're going to go. Who can help you?
yeah.
And it does if you don't have any money, you certainly have $15 to go buy somebody's book
Totally,
or you
totally.
can get on their podcast. I guarantee you, if I listen to every podcast Darren did and wrote things down, your leadership skills will increase automatically.
Mm,
Let Darren be your who.
absolutely. Love the plug. Thank you, Gene. So,
Well,
mate, where can people get access to you? Where's the best place for them to connect? other than
Well,
obviously LinkedIn?
the very, very best place is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Start getting into my content. It's free. Here's all I ask. Come and I'll accept you as an invite and all that stuff. Just comment when you see something you like. Darren and I were just talking about, these days it's hard to grow a LinkedIn list because there's so many people on it. And I was just at an event where I was keynoting, and at least five people came up to me and said, I follow you on LinkedIn, love your stuff. You wrote this and it changed how I did that. And I'm like, why didn't you comment? Oh, I just look. I just look. Why don't you do a comment? I personally respond to every single comment, and I'm even glad to get on a phone call with people if you're stuck or you want some ideas. I'm glad to get on and do a hour long, get on with your sales team and you tell me two or three problems you're experiencing, and I'll do a workshop for you.
Yeah,
And that I mean, at the end of the day, service to many is what leads to greatness.
totally.
And I know if I help you, it's kind of like when I did that free program for GeoBear on how to run virtual sales meetings and didn't ask for any money. And then 3 weeks later, he calls and says, I'd like you to be, the president of the Americas. You don't think that had anything to do with it, Darren? I was willing to do something for free. And you would be surprised at what comes out of that. Yeah, there are going to be times when you do it and it's one and done.
Yeah,
But that's a lot better than a cold call. I promise you that.
totally. It's and John Maxwell again just says give, 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 give with no expectation of anything in return because it's giving is the right thing to do. And through that process, you'll always be taken care of.
Did you ever study Gary Vee? You ever study his work?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah,
Gary Vaynerchuk. He
yeah.
wrote a book, and I know we got to wrap up. I'm sorry, I get going, and I'm so pat. Darren, my life is dedicated to helping people.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. If you haven't read that, I highly recommend you read it. Here's the short of it: give, give, give. Content, advice. Now, if you can do it online, if you can give a video of here's three things I learned from
Mm,
losing this deal, but give, 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 jab, 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 then ask for something.
yeah,
Right? There's a lot of people that'll just suck you dry for free stuff. Great. They're out there. That's
yeah,
fine. No problem. But I guarantee out of 10, there's one that says, and you say, hey, would you buy my book?
yeah.
Hey, want to join my webinar for $20? Hey, do you want to get my video program? You give and give and give, and they say, this guy's or gal's original. This guy has good content. I want to get more.
Mm,
That's the name of the game. The more
totally,
you're putting out there to help people, to educate and teach, the more that'll come to you.
totally. I love that. Great principle, mate. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I've gone probably 18, 20 minutes over because you had a you had a finished on the hour. So hopefully
What
nobody's
happened?
knocking on the
What
door.
happened? Well, you ever get in a flow? And I'm just imagining just sitting, I imagine as I'm doing this with you, Darren, but I imagine I'm sitting in the car with somebody that's listening to this and we're just having a conversation.
That's
Or I
it.
imagine I'm at somebody's kitchen table and we're just having a one-to-one consult, or I'm in your office.
Yeah,
And, if you ever sat down with me and went down this path, I'm like, yeah. I mean,
that's
you
it.
start, the beauty of getting older, you've made a lot more mistakes
That's it.
and you've learned from those mistakes. And now you can make sure that 30-year-old or 35 or 40-year-old doesn't make those mistakes.
So our long road can become other people's shortcuts.
Yeah. Great saying. If you want to know the road ahead,
Mm,
ask the man that's walking back.
yeah,
Take
totally,
that to the bank.
totally. On that note, my friend, it's been an absolute pleasure and a great conversation. So much gold in that,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast, mate. Have a phenomenal rest of your January 15, as I will enjoy my January 16.
Oh, that's right. It's the next day. But by the way, if you come onto LinkedIn and from this podcast, just shoot me a note and say, hey, you were on the Exceptional Leader podcast.
Yeah,
And I'd love to give you a virtual high
high
five.
five. Love it.
And that's good kudos to Darren. He's working hard. He's putting the money into building this podcast so that it can serve you at a higher level. So make sure and comment on this podcast. Give him a 5-star review. That's what helps him rank better. Don't be lazy. Don't be selfish. If you got value, the next move is rate him and give him a great review. That's on you.
Love your work, my friend. Good on you, Gene. Great
All right,
conversation.
brother.
Thanks,
Good
buddy.
on you. Good on you.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.